Imagine for a moment you're facing down, a really sprawling, complex information challenge.
Mm,
Maybe it's a new industry you need to master for a critical project, or a groundbreaking idea you're trying to launch,
yeah.
or even just navigating that vast sea of data to make a major personal decision.
Right. Information overload.
Totally. You've got articles, research papers, your own handwritten notes from like a dozen different conversations, conflicting viewpoints, half-formed ideas swirling in your head.
Yeah.
You know this information is absolutely vital. It's the key to making progress. But how on earth do you cut through the noise? How do you distill it all down and get to the core of what's truly important without feeling completely overwhelmed?
It's a common feeling.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into the very heart of that challenge, but through a surprisingly potent lens. We're going to unpack the fundamental practices known as elicitation and collaboration within the world of business analysis. It's about how seasoned professionals expertly uncover crucial information, make crystal clear sense of it, and then work with others in a way that turns raw data into actionable insight. And honestly, this isn't just for business analysts. These are like superpowers for anyone facing an information overload.
That's absolutely right. Spot on. For this deep dive, we're drawing our insights from specialized excerpts discussing the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area.
Right.
And this isn't just some dry textbook. This material lays out a really methodical yet dynamic approach to how business analysts expertly obtain information from a diverse set of stakeholders, rigorously confirm it for accuracy and consistency.
That confirmation bit sounds key.
Oh, it is. And then communicate it so effectively that everyone involved is not just on the same page, but genuinely moving in the same productive direction.
Our mission today is to peel back the layers of this often overlooked, yet profoundly critical area.
Yeah.
We want to give you a practical shortcut to understanding how professionals ensure that the right information isn't just gathered, but genuinely understood, leveraged, and used to achieve successful outcomes. We're not just exploring what happens in the space, but how it's done with precision, why it's so incredibly important for successful outcomes, and how these principles can transform any situation where clear understanding and collective action are key.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
When we talk about elicitation and collaboration, we often hear them mentioned in the same breath, almost like they're the same thing.
Right. People do tend to lump them together.
But what exactly is elicitation, and how does it truly differ from collaboration? There's a crucial distinction, isn't there?
That's a fantastic starting point because you're right. While they are profoundly intertwined, they possess distinct identities. Elicitation at its core is the active process of drawing forth or receiving information from stakeholders or other sources.
Drawing forth, so it's active.
Exactly. Think of it as the strategic hunt for knowledge. The source material emphasizes it's the main path to discovering requirements and design information. This isn't passive data collection, it's a proactive, deliberate investigation.
Okay.
It's about asking the right questions, observing the unspoken, and, digging for those hidden nuggets of insight that might not be immediately obvious.
So it's definitely not just sitting back and waiting for information to land in your lap, is it? It's a pursuit.
Precisely.
It's like being a seasoned detective, meticulously piecing together clues, a scientist designing experiments to reveal unknown truths, and a librarian systematically unearthing forgotten archives, all rolled into one, actively seeking out crucial intel.
That's a great analogy.
The source mentions the different forms it can take. Direct talks, like structured interviews where you're actively probing for information, researching topics which involve anything from deep dives into market trends to like forensic analysis of internal operational data. Conducting experiments, like building prototypes or observational studies to see how things actually work versus how they're supposed to work.
Yeah, the reality check.
Right. Or sometimes it's simply being handed information. But even then, it's still about receiving that information and then immediately beginning to process and contextualize it. It's a truly dynamic engagement with the flow of knowledge.
Exactly. And then we have collaboration. This is defined as the act of two or more people working together towards a common goal.
Okay, so working together.
Yes. Where elicitation is about extracting and gathering information, collaboration is the essential next step of shared sense-making. It's the iterative dialogue, the joint problem solving, and the collective effort to ensure there's a mutual understanding of all types of business analysis information.
So turning the pieces into a shared picture.
You got it. It's the critical process that takes disparate pieces of elicited information and weaves them into a cohesive, shared reality for everyone involved, reducing ambiguity and fostering alignment.
Right. And what's really fascinating here, and maybe often misunderstood, is how the source material clarifies that this isn't a one-time thing, is it? It's not a phase you just move through and leave behind.
Absolutely not. That's a crucial point. It explicitly states that elicitation and collaboration work is never a phase. Rather, it is ongoing as long as business analysis work is occurring.
Ongoing.
Yeah. This highlights its inherently iterative and dynamic nature. Imagine you're trying to understand a new market opportunity. You might interview a few early adopters, that's elicitation,
Okay.
then sit down with your sales team to discuss their feedback. That's
Wait.
collaboration.
Right.
That discussion might reveal a critical gap in your understanding of customer pain points, which then triggers the need for more in-depth customer surveys.
More elicitation.
Exactly, more elicitation. This, in turn, sparks more collaboration to make sense of the new data, which might reveal more gaps. It creates this continuous feedback loop. It's a living, breathing cycle that continually refines understanding as the initiative progresses. It's never truly done until the project is fully realized.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me and maybe a bit counterintuitive for those who like everything meticulously planned out.
Mm-hmm.
Can these activities be entirely unplanned? We often think of business analysis as being very structured, highly organized.
True.
But the source suggests there's significant room and even necessity for spontaneous discovery. It draws a clear distinction between planned activities and unplanned activities.
Yes, it does.
Planned activities, like formal workshops, carefully designed experiments, or comprehensive surveys, are those that are structured and organized well in advance. You schedule them, you prepare for them, everyone knows what's coming and why. Pretty standard stuff.
Right, the scheduled events.
But then you have these unplanned activities.
Yeah.
They happen in the moment without notice.
Ah, the surprises.
Exactly. Think of a just-in-time conversation by the water cooler, or a spontaneous last-minute collaboration sparked by an immediate, unforeseen need.
Yeah.
For example, a quick chat in the hallway with an engineer reveals a significant new technical unknown that suddenly pops up, completely outside of your planned agenda.
Happens all the time.
Right. That unplanned conversation, seemingly minor, might trigger the urgent need for much deeper exploration through a more formal planned activity, like necessitating a full-blown technical workshop with specific subject matter experts to thoroughly investigate that new unknown.
So the unplanned feeds the planned.
Precisely. It's a truly organic, adaptive flow between the two, where serendipitous discovery can propel structured inquiry forward. The best analysts aren't just following a rigid plan, they're keenly aware of these unplanned moments and know how to capture and act on them.
That's a sign of real expertise, being able to pivot like that. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Business Analysis Core Concept Model, or BACCM.
Oh, yes, the BACCM.
It provides an incredibly powerful and, frankly, often underappreciated framework for understanding why elicitation and collaboration are so fundamentally crucial. It describes the intricate relationships among 6 core concepts: change, need, solution, stakeholder, value, and context that are central to any business analysis effort.
Core concepts, okay.
And these concepts are not isolated silos. They are deeply interconnected. Elicitation and collaboration are truly the threads that weave them all together, ensuring coherence and shared understanding across every facet of an initiative.
The threads connecting everything, I like that.
Without these activities, the BACCM would just be a theoretical model. Elicitation and collaboration bring it to life, allowing us to actively work with each concept.
Okay, so let's walk through each one, and maybe you can help us understand that critical connection. First up, change. How do business analysts use elicitation to identify the characteristics of a change, including, any concerns, resistances, or even hidden opportunities stakeholders might have about it?
Right.
And then, how does the very nature of that change itself influence the elicitation process?
Okay, so with change, business analysts employ a diverse array of elicitation techniques to really fully identify its characteristics. This includes concerns, potential resistances, and often, surprisingly, unforeseen opportunities that stakeholders might harbor about any transformation.
Like finding the upside in the disruption.
Exactly. For instance, if the change involves a new, say, ERP system.
Big change.
Huge change. Elicitation might not just focus on identifying user fears about job displacement or steep learning curves, but it could also uncover a deeper systemic resistance to adopting new technologies, maybe rooted in past failed implementations.
Historical context matters.
Immensely. And the very nature and scope of the change itself, whether it's a minor process tweak or a massive organizational restructuring, profoundly dictates the appropriate types and extent of elicitation and collaboration needed.
Scale matters.
Absolutely. A minor change might just require a few informal interviews and a quick review, but a significant one. That'll necessitate extensive, multi-day workshops, wide-ranging surveys, perhaps even experimental proofs of concept to truly understand its ramifications, unearth all stakeholder reactions, and navigate complex interdependencies. It's all about tailoring your investigative approach to the scale and complexity of the unknown.
That makes perfect sense. The scope of the change really dictates the investigative toolkit. What about need? How do business analysts elicit, confirm, and communicate those underlying problems or opportunities? And how do those needs evolve as the understanding deepens? It seems like they wouldn't stay static.
You're right, they rarely do. With need, elicitation is absolutely pivotal in drawing out the core problems, pain points, or latent opportunities that must be addressed. What's crucial here, as the source points out, is that as elicitation is iterative and incremental, the understanding of needs may evolve over time.
Iterative and incremental. So
It changes.
exactly. It's not a static target. It's a moving, refining understanding. For example, a stakeholder might initially express a need for, let's say, faster data processing. Pretty common request.
Sure.
However, through successive targeted interviews and collaborative discussions, the business analyst might uncover that the real underlying need isn't just speed, but maybe improved strategic decision-making accuracy.
A deeper why.
Precisely. And that accuracy is currently hampered not just by slow processing, but also by fragmented data, inconsistent definitions, and a lack of real-time insights. The understanding deepens, refines, and broadens through each elicitation loop, guiding the team to solve the right problem, not just the symptomatic one.
Peeling back the layers, like you said. Exactly, until you reach the fundamental driver.
Okay, and then solution. Once you have a clear understanding of that evolving need, what kind of information is then elicited about potential or proposed solutions? What are you looking for?
Right. So for solution, elicitation shifts its focus to identifying the necessary or desired characteristics of proposed solutions. This isn't just about documenting what is, it's about actively shaping what could be.
Shaping the future state.
Exactly. It's about gathering highly specific information to define the features, functions, and crucial non-functional attributes like performance, scalability, or security that a solution must possess to effectively satisfy the identified needs.
The must-haves.
Must-haves, the should-haves. This could involve eliciting granular details on user interface workflows, intricate data integration points between disparate systems, specific performance expectations under peak load, or the nuanced security protocols required for regulatory compliance. It's about translating that abstract need into concrete solution attributes.
Got it. Moving on to stakeholder. Given that so many different individuals and groups are involved in any real change, how is collaboration precisely managed with these diverse stakeholders? It sounds like navigating a pretty complex web of relationships.
It definitely can be. The stakeholder concept is indeed all about expertly managing that collaboration. The source emphasizes that all stakeholders may participate in different roles and at different times during a change.
Roles can change.
Absolutely, and their influence can too.
Yeah.
Effective collaboration management ensures their proper engagement, making sure the right people, those with the most relevant knowledge, influence, or impact, are involved at precisely the right time, providing their unique insights, and actively working towards a mutual understanding.
Right person, right time.
Crucial. It's about proactively building and maintaining those trust-based relationships throughout the entire process, anticipating potential conflicts, and fostering a shared sense of ownership that transforms passive participants into active partners. This involves everything from managing conflicting priorities to ensuring all voices, even the dissenting ones, are genuinely heard and addressed.
That takes real skill. And value.
Yeah.
How do business analysts collaborate to not just collect information, but also assess and clearly communicate the value of that information? Because Information without clear value can just be noise, right?
Absolutely, just more data to sift through. With value, it's about confirming and effectively communicating the worth, importance, or usefulness of something to a stakeholder within a specific context.
Worth, importance, usefulness.
Okay. This means business analysts collaborate to assess the relative value of the information provided through elicitation. It's not enough to simply gather data. You must ensure its relevance and impact are understood. They apply various techniques to confirm and then clearly articulate that value.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say an elicited requirement for a new feature seems quite complex and maybe expensive to implement. The BA might collaborate with a domain subject matter expert to quantify its potential impact on, say, customer retention or future revenue, translating an abstract benefit into a tangible metric.
Putting numbers on it.
Exactly. Or even just a clear qualitative benefit. This is about making information meaningful, ensuring that stakeholders understand precisely why certain data or insights are important and how they directly contribute to achieving the desired strategic outcomes, preventing that information fatigue you mentioned.
Got it. Finally, context. How is elicitation specifically used to identify information about the often unseen context surrounding the change? This feels like uncovering the environment in which everything operates, the background stuff.
It is exactly that. Context refers to the nuanced circumstances that influence, are influenced by, and provide a deeper understanding of the change itself. Elicitation is absolutely vital here because it helps uncover these often subtle influencing factors that might otherwise be overlooked.
Subtle factors?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, it could be anything from unwritten organizational cultural norms that dictate how decisions are truly made.
The how things really work around here.
Precisely. Or deeply ingrained existing systems and their legacy constraints, shifting market conditions, or even broader geopolitical factors that subtly impact project viability. Understanding these background elements is fundamentally crucial because they directly impact the feasibility, design, and ultimate success of any proposed change or solution.
So you need to look beyond the immediate project.
Absolutely. Elicitation techniques, such as comprehensive document analysis of historical project failures, maybe, or astute interviews with long-serving organizational leaders, are used to gather this critical contextual information, revealing the hidden currents that can either propel or impede progress.
Wow. Okay, so what does this all mean when we put the BACCM together with elicitation and collaboration? What's the big takeaway?
The big takeaway is that elicitation and collaboration aren't just isolated tactical activities you perform. They are deeply intertwined with the very fabric of how changes happen, how genuine needs are identified and met, and how effective solutions are built.
The fabric.
Yeah, they are, in essence, the circulatory system of effective business analysis, ensuring vital, confirmed, and understood information flows seamlessly to where it's needed most, driving clarity and progress across every dimension of a project. Without this active interplay, you're essentially navigating in the dark.
The circulatory system.
Yeah.
Driving clarity.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so now that we've established the foundational concepts and seen how they weave into the larger strategic framework of the BACCM, let's zoom in. Let's get practical.
Right.
Let's talk about the specific practical tasks that bring this knowledge area to life. The source outlines 5 distinct, yet highly interconnected tasks that business analysts meticulously perform. It's a structured, repeatable approach to mastering what we've been discussing.
Yes, the 5 key tasks.
What's the absolutely crucial initial step before you embark on any information gathering journey? It's all about preparation, right? Task 1, prepare for elicitation.
Absolutely. Think of this first task as setting your GPS before a complex road trip. You wouldn't just start driving, would you?
Hopefully not.
Right. The purpose, as the source describes it, is to understand the scope of the elicitation activity, select appropriate techniques, and plan for or procure appropriate supporting materials and resources. It's about laying the precise groundwork for everything that follows.
Groundwork is key.
It ensures that your efforts are targeted and efficient, preventing that aimless wandering or worse, analysis paralysis.
That's paralysis.
Yeah.
Been there.
We all have. This involves clearly defining the desired outcomes for this specific elicitation effort, carefully considering the specific stakeholders involved and their unique perspectives, and aligning your approach with the overall goals of the initiative.
Aligning with the big picture.
You determine what specific work products will be produced from the elicited information, decide which techniques are truly best suited for this particular context, establish the necessary logistical arrangements, identify and gather any needed supporting materials, and critically actively think about how to foster genuine collaboration during the activity itself.
Planning for collaboration, too. Interesting.
Yes, because without this solid preparation, you risk chasing information endlessly without ever knowing when enough is truly enough.
Okay. And when we drill into the elements of this preparation, it becomes clear just how comprehensive and strategic it needs to be. First, there's understanding the scope of elicitation. What factors are business analysts meticulously considering here to ensure they're not just casting a wide net, but a smart, targeted one?
Well, to determine the precise type of business analysis information to be discovered and the most effective techniques to use, business analysts consider a really wide array of factors.
Like what?
This includes the specific business domain you're operating within, the overall corporate culture and environment, which, can dictate how people communicate or even what information they're willing to share.
Culture matters. Definitely.
Big time. Also, the physical locations of stakeholders and their inherent group dynamics, especially if they are geographically dispersed. They also meticulously look at the expected outputs the elicitation activities will feed into, the specific skills and experience of the business analysis practitioner doing the work.
Right. Knowing your own strength.
Yes, and other planned elicitation activities that might complement or precede this one. Furthermore, they critically consider the overarching strategy or solution approach, the eventual scope of the future solution, and potential sources of the business analysis information that will feed into this specific activity.
That's a lot to juggle. Why is defining this scope so critical?
Well, understanding scope helps prevent that silent killer of projects, analysis paralysis.
Right. Endlessly chasing.
Exactly. It identifies potential resource issues, like needing access to a rare subject matter expert before they derail your progress, and it provides a clear, objective signal for when the elicitation activity is truly complete, allowing you to move forward confidently.
Okay. Clarity on when to stop. That's valuable. So it sounds like constructing a very detailed blueprint before you even start building.
That's a good way to put it.
After understanding the scope, you then have to select the right tools for the job. How do business analysts thoughtfully approach selecting elicitation techniques, especially knowing that one size rarely fits all?
Indeed. The source wisely notes that multiple techniques are used in most cases, which is a key insight because rarely can one method capture all the nuances.
Mix and match.
Pretty much. The decision factors are incredibly practical and context-driven. You weigh the cost and time constraints, the types of business analysis information sources available, and crucially, how accessible they are. You also consider the organizational culture. Are people comfortable in large workshops, or do they prefer one-on-one interviews?
Adapting to the people.
Yes, and of course the precise desired outcomes of the elicitation. They also factor in stakeholder needs, their availability, and whether they are co-located or dispersed across different time zones, which profoundly impacts logistics.
Logistics again.
Always. When selecting techniques, they consider those commonly used in similar successful initiatives, those specifically suited to the current unique situation, and the often overlooked tasks needed to meticulously prepare, execute, and complete each technique.
So planning the technique itself.
Right down to the details. And a crucial point here is the continuous need to adjust initial selections due to changing dynamics. A truly thorough understanding of the variety of techniques allows the business analyst to adapt, pivoting from a planned workshop to individual interviews if group dynamics prove unproductive, for instance.
Flexibility is key then.
Absolutely.
Once those techniques are thoughtfully chosen, you have to get practical.
Yeah.
That leads us directly to setting up logistics. What exactly does that entail, beyond just booking a room? It seems like this is where the rubber meets the road for successful interaction.
Logistics are definitely where the rubber meets the road. They're all about the practical, often unseen arrangements that can make or break an elicitation activity.
Make or break, wow.
Yeah. This includes clearly identifying the activity's precise goals, who the participants are and their specific roles, and what resources are scheduled, meaning not just the people, but specific physical rooms or virtual platforms, and any necessary tools like whiteboards, collaboration software, or even specialized equipment for experiments.
Tools and tech, too.
They also pinpoint physical or virtual locations, specific communication channels to be used, the chosen techniques, and even the nuances of languages used by stakeholders, both oral and written, to avoid miscommunication.
Language barriers. Good point.
Critical. For any collaborative activity, meticulously creating a detailed agenda is also an essential part of this crucial step, ensuring everyone knows the purpose, flow, and expected outcomes, minimizing wasted time, and keeping discussions on track.
The agenda keeps it focused.
Exactly. A misstep here, a double-booked room or a faulty video conference link can immediately undermine stakeholder trust and derail productive work.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. And then there's securing supporting material. This isn't just about gathering documents, is it? What kind of materials are we truly talking about here? And how do you ensure you have everything you need?
Right. It's broader than just documents. This involves identifying and comprehensively gathering all the relevant information and resources needed to effectively conduct the elicitation. This could be a vast array of diverse items: critical access to specific people or systems, historical operational data for trend analysis, various physical materials like product samples, maybe?
Product sample.
Yeah, sometimes. And a wide range of documents. These documents might include existing system documentation, intricate business rules that govern operations, official organizational policies, relevant industry regulations, or even existing contracts that define external relationships.
So legal and regulatory stuff too.
Often, yes. It also extends to outputs of prior analysis work, such as draft versions of analysis models or preliminary process diagrams that provide a starting point. Business analysts must either acquire or develop these materials and tools, often navigating organizational bureaucracy or technical hurdles.
Getting access can be tough.
It can. And if you're planning experimental elicitation, like a proof of concept or a usability test, there might be additional specialized planning required for novel tools, equipment, or even test environments, ensuring the experiment yields valid and reliable insights.
Planning for experiments sounds complex.
It requires careful thought, definitely.
And finally, a task that often gets overlooked but sounds profoundly impactful. Prepare stakeholders. Why is it so vitally important to get stakeholders ready for these activities, and what happens if you don't? Seems like common courtesy, but maybe it's more than that.
Oh, it's much more than courtesy. Preparing stakeholders is absolutely vital for ensuring genuine buy-in, proactive participation, and overall effectiveness.
Buy-in is huge.
Huge. Business analysts may need to educate stakeholders on how a particular elicitation technique works. For example, explaining the dynamic nature of a prototyping session versus a formal review, or precisely what specific information is needed from them, emphasizing the why behind the request.
Explaining the why.
Always. It can even be incredibly helpful to explain a technique to uninvolved stakeholders, as it helps them understand the validity and relevance of the information that was elicited later on, fostering transparency.
Interesting point about uninvolved stakeholders.
Yeah, it builds broader trust. The source explicitly warns that stakeholders might become unresponsive, resistant, or actively challenging if they feel an activity isn't aligned with their objectives, or if they don't truly understand its purpose, or are confused about the process.
So they might just check out or push back.
Exactly. Imagine trying to run a workshop where half the participants don't know why they're there or what's expected. It's a recipe for frustration and wasted time.
Total waste of time.
So, securing genuine buy-in from all necessary stakeholders is paramount. This can involve requesting they review supporting materials beforehand, providing a clear agenda in advance to ensure they arrive prepared both in terms of mindset and information, and addressing any initial concerns.
Setting expectations clearly.
It's also worth noting that for solo elicitation, like independent research or exploration, preparing other stakeholders isn't always strictly necessary, though informing them might still be beneficial depending on the context.
Okay. So after all that meticulous preparation, defining the scope, thoughtfully selecting techniques, setting up precise logistics, securing all necessary materials, and getting stakeholders mentally and practically ready, what's the concrete output of this crucial initial stage? It sounds like more than just a to-do list.
You're absolutely right. The output of this comprehensive preparation phase isn't just a collection of notes, it's the elicitation activity plan.
The elicitation activity plan.
This plan is a critical, often formal document or set of guidelines for each specific elicitation activity. It meticulously details the logistics for the session, clearly articulates the precise scope of the elicitation, names the carefully selected techniques to be used, and lists all the supporting materials that have been secured.
So it pulls everything together.
Exactly. It's essentially your detailed roadmap for the actual elicitation, ensuring consistency, focus, and efficiency moving forward. Without it, you're navigating uncharted waters without a compass.
Good analogy. Okay, with that meticulous plan now firmly in place, we move into the actual execution. Task 2, conduct elicitation. After all that preparation, it's finally time for action. What truly happens during the actual elicitation itself, and what are the different forms it can take? Let's get into the doing.
Right, the doing. The purpose of conduct elicitation is direct and active. to draw out, explore, and identify information relevant to the change. The source outlines 3 fundamental types of elicitation, each with its own strengths.
3 types.
First, there's collaborative elicitation, which involves direct, interactive engagement with stakeholders, relying heavily on their collective experiences, specialized expertise, and informed judgment.
So working directly with people.
Yes. Think of it as dynamic dialogue, facilitated brainstorming sessions, or group problem solving where ideas are built upon and refined in real time. This is often the most visible and interactive form.
Okay. Collaborative. What's second type?
Second, we have research. This type involves systematically discovering and studying information from materials or sources that aren't directly known or immediately accessible by the primary stakeholders involved in the change.
So digging into data and documents.
Exactly. Stakeholders might still participate, for example, by pointing you to where critical historical data is stored or advising on trusted external sources. Research can include rigorous data analysis of historical sales data to identify trends, comprehensive market analysis to understand competitor strategies, or a deep dive into industry best practices. It's about looking beyond internal perspectives to gain a broader, more objective understanding.
Getting that outside view. Makes sense. And the third?
And third, there are experiments. This involves identifying information that simply could not be known or fully understood without some sort of controlled test or hands-on exploration.
Testing things out.
Right. Some information is speculative or currently unknown and cannot be adequately drawn from people or static documents. Experiments can help discover this kind of elusive information. Examples include observational studies where you watch users interact with the system.
Like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, or developing proofs of concept to validate technical feasibility, or building functional prototypes to test user experience and gather iterative feedback.
Prototypes seem really useful for getting feedback.
Incredibly useful. The key takeaway across all 3 types, collaborative, research, experiments, is that one or more of these techniques are used, often in combination, to produce the desired outcomes within the defined scope of elicitation. And they actively involve stakeholders through participation, interaction, research, study, and providing feedback on everything from documents to full-fledged systems.
So it's a blend usually. It sounds like a truly dynamic and active process, adapting the approach based on the nature of the information needed. What are the core elements that guide and ensure the success of this conducting phase, preventing it from just becoming, an unfocused conversation or random research?
Good question. The first crucial element is to guide elicitation activity. This means expertly ensuring that the activity remains acutely focused on producing the intended information at the precise level of detail required.
Keeping it on track.
Exactly. Business analysts consider a lot here. The activity's predefined goals and agenda, the overall scope of the change, what exact forms of output the activity will generate, how those results will seamlessly support other representations of business analysis information.
It's how it all fits together.
Right. How the output integrates with what's already known, and crucially, who provides the information, who will use it, and how it will be ultimately utilized. A significant challenge here is recognizing, often subtly, when discussions begin to stray out of scope.
Scope creep, even in a meeting.
It happens. And then skillfully guiding conversations back to the core objectives without stifling valuable, albeit tangential, insights that might be parked for later. The business analyst also uses this comprehensive understanding to determine when sufficient elicitation has truly occurred, knowing when to stop the activity. Once enough relevant quality information has been gathered to move forward, preventing both over-analysis and under-preparation.
Knowing when enough is enough, that's key again.
It really is.
And once that vital information is elicited, it's not enough to just have it. It needs to be meticulously captured and integrated. Right, you can't just let it float away.
Exactly. The second essential element is capture elicitation outcomes. Conducting elicitation is frequently an iterative process, unfolding in a series of sessions, either in parallel or sequentially, depending on the complexity and scope.
So multiple rounds often.
Very often. For instance, you might have a series of stakeholder interviews followed by a cross-functional workshop. If the elicitation activity is unplanned, like that crucial hallway conversation we talked about earlier.
Yeah. The water cooler moment.
Right. The outcomes still need to be captured rigorously and then integrated into the appropriate planned outcomes. Imagine an unrecorded, brilliant insight from a spontaneous chat being lost because it wasn't immediately noted down.
Oh, that would be painful.
Terribly. The importance of this step is paramount. It ensures that all information produced during elicitation activities, whether raw data, key insights, or new questions, is accurately and comprehensively recorded for later reference, validation, and use, preventing the loss of vital insights and ensuring continuity.
Document everything.
In some usable form, yes.
Okay. The source provides a truly comprehensive list of techniques for conducting elicitation, offering a versatile toolkit. We don't have time to go through every single one in detail, but let's highlight some of these and maybe give a more specific, vivid example of how they are leveraged in practice. For instance, benchmarking and market analysis. This isn't just about comparing stats, is it? You mentioned it's about uncovering hidden assumptions.
That's a great point to emphasize. With benchmarking and market analysis, rather than just looking at what competitors are doing feature for feature, in elicitation, it's really powerful for identifying hidden assumptions within your own organization.
How so?
Well, you ask, why are they achieving a certain efficiency or customer satisfaction level and we aren't? It forces you to question your own processes and beliefs. It uncovers blind spots and challenges internal biases, making it a potent tool for discovering novel solutions or identifying areas for unexpected improvement. It brings that essential external reality check.
Challenging the "that's how we've always done it" mentality.
Exactly. And brainstorming and mind mapping. They seem straightforward, but how do they truly excel in elicitation? They're not just for generating ideas, right?
Right.
Right, they're fantastic for generating and organizing a vast number of ideas from a group in a short period, but in elicitation, their value goes deeper. Imagine a team grappling with a new product feature. Brainstorming helps capture every wild idea, no matter how outlandish, initially suspending judgment. That's key.
No bad ideas at first.
Exactly. Then mind mapping visually organizes those ideas, revealing connections and hierarchies that might not have been obvious in a linear list. This helps to elicit not just individual thoughts, but also the relationships between them, often leading to a clearer understanding of the underlying problem space or solution structure.
Seeing the connections. Okay. What about business rules analysis? It sounds like digging through policies, but how does it reveal information?
Business rules analysis is all about identifying the explicit and often implicit rules that govern decisions, define behaviors, constrain operations, or enable processes within an organization.
Implicit rules. The unwritten ones.
Often the most important ones. For elicitation, this means actively discovering these rules, which might be buried in old code, institutional memory, or obscure policy documents to understand why things are done a certain way. For instance, eliciting the rule, a customer must have an active account for 90 days before qualifying for premium support, directly reveals a critical operational constraint that must be factored into any new customer service solution. It surfaces the logic.
Got it. I'm particularly interested in collaborative games. That sounds fun. But how are they actually used to unearth information in a structured, engaging way? Seems less formal.
They are less formal, and that's often their strength. Collaborative games are a really innovative technique used to develop a better understanding of a problem or to stimulate creative solutions in a structured, engaging way. In elicitation, they can be invaluable for breaking down barriers or exploring sensitive topics.
It's breaking down barriers.
Yeah. For example, a product box game might ask stakeholders to design a product box for an upcoming feature. This forces them to articulate core value propositions, key features, and target audience benefits in a low-pressure visual format. It thereby elicits critical design information and priorities that might be hard to get in a more formal, potentially intimidating meeting.
Makes it less like work, maybe.
Exactly. Taps into creativity differently.
What about data mining and data modeling? They seem highly technical, but how do they serve elicitation, which feels more human-centric?
They bridge that gap. Data mining is used to identify relevant information and often surprising patterns in existing large data sets that no human could easily spot. In elicitation, this could mean analyzing historical customer support logs to find previously unnoticed common pain points that users aren't explicitly reporting anymore because they've just learned to live with them.
Finding the hidden problems in the data.
Right. Data modeling, on the other hand, is used to understand complex entity relationships during elicitation. By collaboratively building a data model with stakeholders, you can elicit their understanding of how different pieces of information relate, revealing fundamental business concepts and their interdependencies. It's crucial for system design, but also clarifies business understanding.
Okay, makes sense. And document analysis. That sounds like a foundational part of any information gathering, just reading stuff.
It is foundational, but it's more than just reading. Document analysis is all about meticulously reviewing existing systems, documentation, contracts, policies, regulations, etc., to extract information that might not be readily available from live stakeholders or, importantly, to validate information gathered elsewhere.
Validating what people told you.
Precisely. For example, analyzing an old system's user manual might elicit hidden legacy requirements or obscure business rules that are still technically in effect, even if no one actively remembers them or follows them anymore. It provides a baseline or confirms history.
Okay. Focus groups are well known in market research, but how are they tailored specifically for elicitation within a project context?
Focus groups are powerful for identifying and understanding ideas, attitudes, and emotional responses from a specific group of stakeholders, not just customers. For elicitation, imagine exploring reactions to a new internal process change.
Internal change. Okay.
A facilitated focus group can elicit shared concerns, identify potential champions for the change, and reveal nuances of how the change is perceived within a specific peer group. It provides insights into group dynamics and shared perspectives that individual interviews might miss.
Capturing the groupthink, good or bad.
Exactly.
Interface analysis sounds very specific, like system to system. How does it aid elicitation more broadly?
It helps understand the interaction points between any two entities, which could be systems, organizations, or even people roles. It's about the handoffs. In elicitation, this involves meticulously examining how information or actions flow across these boundaries.
The connections between things.
Yes. For example, understanding how a customer service agent interacts with a billing system and then has to manually update a separate CRM system can elicit critical integration requirements or reveal efficiency bottlenecks that need to be addressed in a new solution. It highlights the seams.
Finding the friction points. Got it. And of course, interviews, a classic. How do they truly uncover needs, problems, and opportunities in a deep dive setting? Seems obvious, but maybe there are nuances.
Interviews are indeed foundational, used to ask targeted questions of stakeholders to deeply uncover needs, identify underlying problems, or discover new opportunities. But a skilled interviewer in elicitation isn't just seeking predefined answers. They're actively listening for nuances, unspoken assumptions, asking probing follow-up questions.
Reading between the lines.
Very much so. For example, a series of interviews with sales managers might not just confirm a need for a new CRM feature everyone's asking for, but also reveal a broader underlying problem of inconsistent sales processes across different regions, which is the root cause.
Finding the real problem again.
Always the goal.
For gaining real-world insight, observation is invaluable, right? Showing you not just what people say they do, but what they actually do. The difference can be huge.
Huge is right. Observation is used to gain direct insight into how work is actually done in practice, often revealing critical workarounds, unspoken rules, or inefficiencies that might never be articulated in an interview or found in a process document.
The workarounds are key.
They tell you so much. For instance, observing a call center agent interact with a customer might reveal that they're juggling 5 different disconnected systems to answer a single, simple query. That immediately elicits a strong need for system integration or perhaps a unified desktop view. You see the pain point directly.
See it in action. Makes sense. Process analysis and process modeling seem intrinsically linked to understanding operations. How are they used for elicitation specifically?
They are intrinsically linked. Process analysis and process modeling are used to understand current processes, identify opportunities for improvement, or to directly elicit as-is and to-be processes with stakeholders. By collaboratively mapping out a process, often visually,
Drawing it out together.
yes. Stakeholders not only describe what they do, but they often identify where bottlenecks occur, where key decisions are made, or where handoffs are clunky. They thereby elicit improvement requirements directly from the workflow itself. The model becomes the elicitation tool.
The map reveals the problems.
Okay. And prototyping, you mentioned it under experiments, but how does it specifically accelerate elicitation and validation?
Prototyping is incredibly powerful for eliciting and validating stakeholders' needs through an iterative process that creates a working model, even a simple one, of requirements or designs, instead of abstract discussions about features.
Which can be hard to visualize.
Exactly. Stakeholders can interact directly with a visual or functional representation. For example, a low-fidelity, maybe even paper prototype of a new mobile app could immediately elicit feedback on usability issues or missing functionality that would be much harder to uncover through static documents or long descriptions. It makes it real and accelerates the refinement of requirements. Get feedback faster. Love it. For broad input, surveys or questionnaires provide a structured way to gather information from many people quickly. How are they best used in elicitation?
Yes. Surveys or questionnaires offer a structured way to elicit information from a large group in a relatively short period, often when face-to-face interaction is impractical or you need quantitative data. In elicitation, they can be used effectively to validate assumptions across a wider audience.
Checking if an idea resonates broadly.
Right. Or to gauge preferences on specific features, perhaps rank priorities, providing quantitative data that complements the qualitative insights you get from interviews or workshops. They add breadth.
Breadth versus depth. Okay. Yeah. Finally, workshops. These seem like a cornerstone of collaborative elicitation. What makes them so effective?
They really are a cornerstone. Workshops are powerful for eliciting business analysis information from a group in a collaborative, facilitated way. They excel at building consensus, resolving conflicts in real time, and generating ideas collectively.
Harnessing the group energy.
Exactly. For instance, a requirements gathering workshop can bring together diverse stakeholders, from executives to end users to technical experts, to collaboratively define and prioritize features for a new system. It leverages the group dynamic to elicit a shared understanding and buy-in that a series of single interviews might never achieve.
Getting everyone on the same page, literally.
Pretty much.
Wow, that's a comprehensive toolkit. It really sounds like nearly anyone could be a stakeholder in this process at some point, right? Who are the key players whose input is most often sought?
Precisely. The net can be cast very wide. While the source lists the usual suspects like customers, domain subject matter experts, SMEs, end users, implementation SMEs, and sponsors.
The typical roles.
Yes. But it also very importantly states any stakeholders could have relevant knowledge or experience to participate in elicitation activities. The customer and end user provide invaluable insights into what they genuinely need and how they will interact with proposed solutions.
The user perspective.
Critical. Domain SMEs offer deep, specialized expertise in specific aspects of the situation or business area. Implementation SMEs bring critical specialist expertise on how a solution can be practically designed, built, and implemented. The how.
The how is important.
Absolutely. Sponsors authorize participation and often provide high-level strategic direction or constraints. But ultimately, anyone who possesses unique information is impacted by the change or can influence the outcome is a potential and valuable contributor. It's truly a collaborative effort from many angles, requiring careful selection of who to involve, when, and how.
So it's about finding the right knowledge wherever it sits.
Exactly.
And the output of all this intensive work in the conduct elicitation phase. After you've done the interviews, workshops, research, what do you walk away with?
You walk away with elicitation results. Unconfirmed.
Unconfirmed. That qualifier seems important.
It's incredibly important. This is the raw, unverified, captured information specific to the elicitation activity. It's crucial to note that it's unconfirmed. Think of this as the initial, unfiltered brain dump. All the pieces are there, maybe notes, recordings, diagrams.
The raw material.
Exactly. But they haven't been cross-referenced, validated, or sanity checked against other sources yet. It's raw material ready for the next critical step. Ignoring that unconfirmed label is like, as you said before, building a house on quicksand.
Right.
The foundations will inevitably crack later, leading to significant rework and unmet expectations.
Okay, so you've gathered all this information through various techniques. You've got your unconfirmed results, the raw brain dump. But how do you know it's accurate, consistent, and truly useful? How do you turn that raw material into something reliable? This is where task 3, confirm elicitation results, comes in. This seems like a critical quality gate.
It absolutely is, a crucial checkpoint. The purpose here is to check the information gathered during an elicitation session for accuracy and consistency with other information.
Accuracy and consistency. Keywords.
Definitely. It's a non-negotiable step because its primary aim is to identify any problems and resolve them before resources are committed based on that potentially flawed information.
Catching errors early.
Exactly. This rigorous review might discover outright errors, critical omissions, frustrating conflicts between different sources, or even just damaging ambiguity within the elicited data. The source is very clear. You must compare the elicitation results against their original source, and you must compare them against other elicitation results to ensure consistency across the board.
Compare against the source and compare against each other. Got it.
Yes. If inconsistencies arise, and they often do, active collaboration with the relevant stakeholders is not just recommended, it's absolutely necessary to resolve them. You have to figure out the discrepancy.
Can't just ignore it.
No way. The warning here is stark. Committing significant resources based on unconfirmed results can lead to disastrously unmet expectations, wasted investment, and the need for significant, costly rework later on.
Fixing it later is always more expensive.
Always. It's also important to note, though, that this confirmation is a much less rigorous and formal review than occurs during analysis. It's a preliminary but vital check. It's not the final formal sign-off on requirements, but it prevents the most glaring issues from propagating further downstream.
A crucial first pass for quality.
Okay.
So, what are the specific elements of this confirmation process? How do business analysts meticulously go about checking for that accuracy and consistency?
The first element is to compare elicitation results against source information. This means diligently going back to where the information originally came from.
Back to the source.
Right. For instance, if you conducted an interview and then transcribed the notes, you might send those transcribed notes back to the interviewee for their review, asking them to confirm accuracy and clarify any points. Did I capture what you meant?
Simple playback.
Simple, but effective. Or, if you extracted information from a historical document, you'd compare your summary or notes back against the original text to ensure no misinterpretations or context was lost. Follow-up meetings or independent reviews with stakeholders are common and effective ways to help correct any discrepancies directly with the information providers. This step is all about ensuring fidelity to the original input.
Did we hear it right? Did we read it right? Makes sense. What's the second element?
The second element, which often reveals deeper insights or trickier issues, is to compare elicitation results against other elicitation results.
Comparing different findings with each other.
Exactly. This is where you actively bring in information from multiple, diverse elicitation activities to ensure everything lines up consistently and provides a coherent picture. For example, if you've gathered data from a stakeholder survey, observed a related process, and conducted individual interviews, you compare those three sets of results to see if they tell the same story, or if there are contradictions.
Looking for agreement or disagreement.
Precisely. If variations or contradictions are identified, and they often are, they must be meticulously investigated and resolved in collaborative discussions with stakeholders. You might find that what one department says happens isn't what another actually experiences or what the system data shows.
Finding the disconnects.
Yes. Comparisons might also be made with historical data or industry benchmarks to confirm more recent findings. And here's the aha moment that frequently occurs. Subtle inconsistencies in elicitation results are often brought to light and sometimes even intentionally surfaced when business analysts start developing specifications and models later on.
So later work reveals earlier problems.
It highlights the inherent interdependency of these tasks. An inconsistency revealed during modeling immediately triggers a reconfirmation need, pushing you back to clarify and get a deeper, more accurate understanding. It's about finding those friction points that indicate underlying issues haven't been fully resolved.
The process forces consistency eventually.
Okay.
And which techniques are particularly useful for this critical confirmation process? And who are the key stakeholders you absolutely need to involve to make sure it's done right?
Several techniques prove invaluable for robust confirmation. Document analysis is continuously used here, obviously, to confirm elicitation results against original source information or other existing trusted documents.
Checking against the paper trail.
Right. Interviews can be effectively used again, but this time to individually confirm integrated information, ensuring all the pieces fit together coherently for a single stakeholder. Does this combined picture make sense to you?
Getting individual validation.
Yes. Reviews, whether informal peer checks or highly formal sign-off meetings, are used to confirm a complete set of elicitation results. The level of formality typically depends on the risk associated with not having absolutely correct information or the required level of sign-off needed.
Adjusting rigor based on risk.
Exactly, and workshops are exceptionally powerful for conducting group reviews of drafted elicitation results. You can use structured agendas, maybe run through scripts or scenario tests, to walk through the information collectively and gather immediate feedback and achieve group consensus on the confirmed understanding.
Group validation. Powerful. And stakeholders.
As for stakeholders, domain subject matter experts, SMEs, are absolutely crucial here. They possess substantial in-depth knowledge and expertise about the elicited information, the change itself, or the solution being considered.
The experts on the what?
Exactly. That makes them indispensable in helping to confirm accuracy and identify subtle omissions or glaring inconsistencies that others might miss. Beyond them, any stakeholder who participated in the initial elicitation activities may need to participate in confirming those results, especially if their original input is being directly verified or synthesized with other data. Their buy-in at this confirmation stage is vital for trust and accuracy.
So involve those who provided the info.
Generally, yes.
And the definitive output of this critical confirmation stage. What's the tangible result that allows you to move forward with confidence, knowing the info is solid?
The output is elicitation results. Confirmed.
Confirmed.
Finally confirmed. This signifies an integrated output that the business analyst and other key stakeholders explicitly agree correctly reflects the captured information. It means the information has been thoroughly vetted for accuracy, consistency, and completeness, confirming it is relevant and truly useful as a reliable input to all further work.
Okay.
It's no longer that quicksand we talked about. It's a solid foundation ready for the next stage of analysis or design.
Solid foundation. Got it.
Yeah.
Now that you have meticulously confirmed information, you know it's accurate and consistent. But having accurate info isn't enough if people don't understand it or know about it.
Exactly. Information siloed is useless.
So how do you make sure everyone who needs it gets it? And more importantly, understands it in a way that truly matters for their role? This brings us to task 4. Communicate business analysis information. This seems like where the rubber meets the road for stakeholder alignment and shared understanding.
You're absolutely right. This is critical for alignment. The purpose of this task is straightforward in concept, yet profoundly challenging in practice. To ensure stakeholders have a shared understanding of business analysis information.
Shared understanding. Key phrase.
Absolutely. This goes far beyond just sending an email with an attachment or publishing a document on a shared drive. It's about delivering precisely the appropriate information to the right stakeholders at the right time in formats that genuinely meet their unique needs.
Tailoring the message.
Definitely. This includes carefully considering the language, the tone, and the style to ensure it's perfectly appropriate for the specific audience, whether they're a deep technical expert or a high-level executive.
Know your audience.
Rule number 1. The source emphasizes that communication of business analysis information is bidirectional and iterative. It's not just pushing information out. It's about actively engaging stakeholders in dialogue to ensure they understand the information, internalize its implications, and then gaining their explicit agreement.
Bidirectional. So it's a conversation.
It has to be.
Yeah.
And critically, it involves acting on any disagreements that arise, using them as opportunities for deeper clarification or refinement, not just shutting them down. This often means multiple forms of communication might be required for the exact same piece of information.
Why multiple forms?
Simply because different stakeholders have different communication preferences, different levels of detail they need, and different ways they absorb information best. Some need visuals, some need text, some need a meeting. It's about tailoring the message and the medium, not just delivering the content. Tailoring the medium, too. Okay, so it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. What are the intricate elements involved in determining the most effective objectives and format for communication, and then actually communicating that complex information to ensure genuine understanding? How do you figure out how to communicate?
Right. When determining the objectives and format, business analysis information packages are prepared for a really diverse range of critical reasons. You might be communicating complex requirements and designs to developers, or facilitating early quality assessment with testers, evaluating strategic alternatives with management, supporting formal reviews, and crucial approvals with sponsors.
Lots of different goals.
Exactly. Serving as direct inputs to solution design and implementation, conforming to stringent contractual or regulatory obligations, or even packaging it for long-term maintenance and future reuse. The primary goal is always to convey information with crystal clarity and in a usable format that enables continuing change activities.
Clarity and usability. To get there, business analysts must ask a series of crucial questions. Who is the ultimate audience for this specific communication? What specific insights does each stakeholder type genuinely need, and what level of detail can they truly understand from this communication? What is their preferred style of receiving information? Visual, textual, interactive?
Thinking about their preferences.
Yes. What information is truly important and what can be summarized or left for appendices? Is the chosen format appropriate for the complexity and sensitivity of the message? How does this package support and integrate with other ongoing activities? And are there any stringent regulatory or contractual constraints that dictate format or delivery method?
Lots of constraints, potentially.
There can be, and based on those answers, possible forms for these carefully crafted packages are varied and strategically chosen.
Like what forms?
Well, you might use formal documentation. This is usually template-based, combining structured text, detailed matrices, or complex diagrams. It provides a stable, verifiable, and long-term record, often crucial for audit trails or contractual purposes.
The official record.
Right. Then there's informal documentation. This might include quick sketches, informal text, maybe working matrices used during a change but aren't part of a formal organizational process. These are often dynamic and evolve rapidly. Think whiteboard photos or quick notes.
More fluid stuff.
Exactly. And finally, presentations. These deliver a high-level overview, excellent for conveying strategic goals, essential solution functions, or supporting critical executive decision-making, where conciseness and impact are paramount.
Getting the point across quickly.
Precisely. The idea is always to combine various materials into a cohesive message that resonates with the specific audience, and these packages are frequently stored in various repositories, digital or otherwise, for easy access and version control.
Keeping track of it all.
Oh.
Okay. And then the actual act of communicating the business analysis package. Once you've decided the what and the how, what platforms are typically leveraged to deliver these tailored communications, and what's the ultimate purpose behind the platform choice? Is it just email?
Rarely just email, though that has its place. The purpose is always to provide stakeholders with precisely the appropriate level of detail and context so they can truly understand the information, internalize its implications, and act on it effectively. Stakeholders are always given the crucial opportunity to review the package, ask clarifying questions, and raise any concerns or objections.
Opportunity for feedback is key.
Absolutely essential. The choice of communication platform is absolutely vital and highly strategic. You might use group collaboration platforms like expertly facilitated workshops or structured meetings. These are used to communicate to a group simultaneously, allowing for immediate discussion, real-time feedback, and rapid consensus building, ideal for complex or contentious topics where dialogue is needed.
Face-to-face or virtual meetings.
Right. Then there's individual collaboration, such as one-on-one interviews or targeted calls. This communicates information to a single stakeholder, which is particularly useful when a group setting isn't feasible or productive for gaining a nuanced individual understanding or for addressing sensitive information privately.
One-on-one for sensitivity.
Often, yes. Lastly, email or other nonverbal methods, like a dedicated online portal or shared document platform, are used when there's a high maturity level of information that needs little or no verbal explanation to support it, or for broad, one-way dissemination of stable, finalized information.
When it just needs to be recorded or announced.
Exactly. This careful selection ensures the message reaches the right audience in the most effective and impactful way, preventing information overload or misunderstanding.
Matching the platform to the purpose.
Okay.
Which techniques and stakeholders are most relevant for this crucial communication task, ensuring that information isn't just sent out into the void, but genuinely lands and is acted upon?
For techniques, some familiar ones reappear, but with a communication focus. Interviews are used not just for eliciting, but also for communicating complex or sensitive information to stakeholders individually, allowing for personalized explanation and immediate feedback clarification.
Using interviews to explain.
Yes. Reviews provide stakeholders with a structured opportunity to give feedback, request adjustments, and grant crucial approvals. These can be conducted in a group setting or individually, depending on the formality required for sign-off.
Formal reviews for approval.
Often. And workshops are exceptionally effective for facilitating group feedback sessions, building immediate consensus on the communicated information, and securing group approvals, leveraging the dynamic of collective decision-making and discussion.
Workshops for group buy-in.
Precisely. In terms of stakeholders, a wide and diverse range needs to be diligently involved and communicated with. Customer and end users require frequent and transparent communication to stay acutely aware of relevant information that impacts their daily operations or user experience. They need to know what's coming.
Keeping users informed.
Absolutely. Domain subject matter experts need to understand the information deeply to meticulously confirm and validate its accuracy and completeness from their area of expertise. They're often key reviewers.
SMEs as validators again.
Yes. Implementation subject matter experts require a thorough understanding of requirements and designs for successfully building and deploying the solution, while testers need this information for designing effective test cases based on what needs to be verified.
feeding the downstream team.
Exactly. Ultimately, any stakeholder in the initiative will likely need to be communicated with at some point, tailored to their specific role and information needs to ensure alignment and informed decision-making across the board.
Tailored communication for everyone involved.
That's the goal.
And the definitive output of this comprehensive communication effort, what's the mark of success? When can you say communication has actually happened?
The output is business analysis information communicated. And this isn't just about the act of sending the information, hitting send on an email. It means the information is considered truly communicated when the target stakeholders have demonstrably reached a shared understanding of its content and implications.
Shared understanding again, demonstrably.
Yes. It signifies a successful transfer of knowledge, where the message has not only been received, but also genuinely internalized, understood, and ideally agreed upon. This shared understanding is the bedrock for moving forward without costly misunderstandings or disagreements down the road.
Okay, that makes total sense. This all sounds incredibly well-structured on paper. Prepare, conduct, confirm, communicate. But we know that getting people to genuinely work together, to truly collaborate, can often be the real challenge in any initiative, right? People are complicated.
People are definitely complicated. That's where the art comes in.
How do we manage that collaboration effectively, moving beyond just communication to genuine partnership and teamwork? This brings us to the final task, Task 5, manage stakeholder collaboration.
This is truly where the human element, the art of navigating relationships, comes powerfully into play. And you're right, it's an ongoing, dynamic activity, not a one-off task.
Ongoing relationship management.
Pretty much. The overarching purpose is to encourage stakeholders to work towards a common goal. Stakeholders, as we know, hold varying degrees of influence and authority over work products and are crucial sources of needs, constraints, and assumptions. As the work progresses, the business analyst continuously identifies new stakeholders who might emerge.
People come and go.
Exactly. Meticulously confirms their evolving roles and communicates proactively with them to ensure the right people participate at the right times and in appropriate capacities.
Keeping the engagement list current.
Yes. Managing collaboration isn't a static task. It's a living process where roles, responsibilities, influence, attitudes, and authority can all shift and evolve over time, sometimes quite rapidly, especially on long projects.
Things change.
Constantly. The more significant or visible a change is within an organization, the more diligent attention is directed to actively managing stakeholder collaboration. Business analysts must actively monitor and assess each stakeholder's attitude and engagement.
Checking the mood.
In a professional sense, yes. To strategically capitalize on positive reactions and proactively mitigate or avoid negative ones. Imagine a key stakeholder who initially showed enthusiasm suddenly becoming disengaged or critical. That's an early warning sign that needs immediate, careful attention.
Addressing negativity proactively.
You have to. Poor relationships with stakeholders or a lack of managed collaboration can have many deeply detrimental effects. A failure to provide quality information when it's needed, strong negative reactions to inevitable setbacks or delays.
Blame games.
Right. Active resistance to the proposed change, a profound lack of support or participation in crucial activities, and even valuable business analysis information being completely ignored or dismissed out of hand.
Undermining the whole effort.
It can. The solution, as the source unequivocally points out, lies in building strong, positive, and trust-based relationships. Business analysts must actively manage relationships with all stakeholders. Those who provide services to them, like SMEs, those who depend on their services, like developers or testers, and those who participate directly in business analysis tasks. This requires empathy, active listening, and a proactive approach to fostering a healthy, collaborative working environment.
Proactive relationship building. It sounds like a constant, ongoing investment. What are the key elements to achieving this crucial state of managed collaboration and ensuring genuine buy-in and teamwork? How do you actually do it?
Okay, 3 key elements here. The first essential element is to gain agreement on commitments. Business analysis activities frequently demand significant time and resource commitments from stakeholders who usually have demanding day jobs.
People are busy.
Always. The business analyst and stakeholders need to collectively identify and explicitly agree upon these commitments. What time, what effort, what input is needed as early as possible in the process. Whether communicated formally through signed agreements or resource plans, or informally through clear verbal accords, there must be explicit understanding of the expectations and desired outcomes of that commitment from all parties. No surprises.
Clear expectations on time needed.
Crucial. This process almost always involves active dialogue and skilled negotiation, especially when competing priorities exist. Therefore, highly effective negotiation, clear communication, and adept conflict resolution skills are not just beneficial, they are absolutely essential for business analysts in this role. You have to advocate for the time needed.
Negotiation skills are key. Got it. What's the second element?
The second element is monitor stakeholder engagement. You can't just get commitment and assume it holds. Business analysts must continuously monitor both participation and performance to ensure several critical factors.
Like what?
That the right subject matter experts and other stakeholders are participating effectively and consistently. Are they showing up? Are they contributing meaningfully?
Checking for quality participation.
Yes. That stakeholder attitudes and interests are remaining constant or, ideally, improving over time. Are they still bought in? Or are they becoming withdrawn?
Gauging the mood again.
That elicitation results are being confirmed in a timely manner, that people are reviewing things when asked, and that all agreements and commitments are rigorously maintained. Are they delivering on what they promised?
Holding people accountable, gently.
In a way, yes. They also continually monitor for emergent risks related to stakeholders, such as key stakeholders being diverted to other urgent work, elicitation activities not yielding the required quality of information because people aren't engaged, or critical approvals being significantly delayed because someone is dragging their feet.
Spotting risks early.
Proactive monitoring allows you to intervene before small issues escalate into major roadblocks, often by simply checking in, asking questions, and demonstrating that their contribution truly matters and is needed.
Simple check-ins can help.
Okay, and the third element?
Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there's collaboration itself, the overarching principle that enables everything else. The core belief here is that stakeholders are more likely to support change if business analysts collaborate with them and encourage the free flow of information, ideas, and innovations.
Collaboration drives support.
Absolutely. Genuine stakeholder engagement demands that every individual involved feels that they are truly heard, that their opinions genuinely matter, and that their contributions are sincerely recognized and valued. Even if their idea isn't used, they need to feel heard.
Feeling valued is huge. It's fundamental. This profound sense of inclusion and ownership is achieved through regular, frequent, and truly bidirectional communication, where listening is just as important, if not more important, than speaking. Highly collaborative relationships are the bedrock for maintaining consistent information flow, even when obstacles and setbacks inevitably occur.
Bumps in the road.
They always happen, and they powerfully promote a shared effort to creatively resolve problems and collectively achieve desired outcomes. It's about turning a group of individuals with potentially competing interests into a cohesive team, all working towards a common vision.
Building a real team. Powerful. And to wrap up this crucial task, what about the specific techniques and stakeholders involved in managing this ongoing collaboration, ensuring relationships stay strong and productive throughout the project lifecycle?
Techniques that are particularly effective here include collaborative games, again, not just for elicitation, but to stimulate teamwork, break down silos, and help identify hidden assumptions or explore complex knowledge in a fun, safe, and engaging environment, building rapport.
Games for team building, too.
Yes. Lessons learned sessions, conducted perhaps at milestones, are invaluable for objectively understanding stakeholder satisfaction or dissatisfaction. They offer concrete opportunities to improve future working relationships and processes based on feedback.
Learning as you go.
Critical. Risk analysis and management is applied proactively to identify and manage risks specifically related to stakeholder involvement and engagement. For instance, the risk of a key stakeholder becoming a bottleneck due to overcommitment and planning mitigation for that.
Managing stakeholder risks.
Yes, and a stakeholder list, map, or personas are continuously used and updated to determine who is available to participate, reveal informal but influential relationships, understand political dynamics, and know precisely which stakeholders should be consulted for different kinds of information or for specific types of collaboration. It's a living document.
Keeping track of the players.
Exactly. As for stakeholders, it's truly all stakeholders who might be involved in collaboration during a change initiative. This highlights the pervasive nature of this task. It touches everyone.
Everyone is involved in collaboration. Makes sense. And the ultimate desired output of all this continuous effort in managing collaboration, what are you aiming for?
The output isn't a document this time, it's a state. It's stakeholder engagement.
Engagement.
Yes, this represents the sustained willingness from stakeholders to genuinely and actively engage in business analysis activities and to interact productively and trustfully with the business analysts and each other when necessary. It's the living, breathing foundation of effective information flow and shared progress. It transforms that collection of individuals we talked about into a powerful, unified force driving successful change.
A unified force. That's a great way to end the tasks.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. We've truly gone from the grand overview of what elicitation and collaboration actually are, navigated through the powerful conceptual framework of the BACCM and how it connects all the dots, and then drilled down in pretty extensive detail into the 5 critical tasks that bring it all to life. Meticulously preparing for elicitation, skillfully conducting it, rigorously confirming the results, clearly communicating the insights, and vitally managing that complex web of stakeholder collaboration.
It's quite a journey through the process.
It really is. It's a comprehensive living and breathing process that underpins success.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these aren't just isolated checklist steps you tick off. They're really a continuous, interwoven, and deeply symbiotic cycle that underpins any successful initiative involving complex information and, crucially, diverse groups of people.
Interwoven and symbiotic.
It's about systematically reducing uncertainty, building profound shared understanding, and proactively navigating the human element to make even the most complex endeavors navigable, efficient, and ultimately successful. It really does transform potential chaos into clarity.
Transforms chaos into clarity. Love it. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you're trying to understand a new field for a career pivot, lead a diverse team through a challenging project, or just make a complex personal decision based on a mountain of conflicting information in your own life. The principles of active elicitation, asking the right questions, digging deeper, careful confirmation, checking your facts, comparing sources, crystal clear communication, tailoring your message, and thoughtful, proactive collaboration, building trust, ensuring buy-in, are your superpowers.
You really are universally applicable skills.
Definitely. And this deep dive raises an important question for you to consider. How by proactively applying just one of these deep dive elements, perhaps meticulously preparing for your next critical information gathering, planning it out more, or maybe rigorously confirming information before acting on it, that sanity check?
Yeah, just one small change.
Exactly. How might applying just one element transform the next big information challenge you face? Think about how that one shift could change your entire outcome. Something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with more insights.